The following video is not made for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to my friends and subscribers. This is the TFfangeek. It's been a long time since I did my last video. Life got in the way, unfortunately, but also the weather, as you can tell by the sweat running down my forehead. It's been really hot here where I live in Southern California for the past month, much hotter than it normally is this time of year. Normally, during the summertime, the weather is around 75 degrees Fahrenheit. For those people living outside the United States, I apologize. I have no knowledge of the metric system, thanks to the United States being the only country in the world that doesn't want to use it. But, point is, thanks to being so hot and sweaty at nighttime, I didn't get to do this video the night I wanted to do it, which was a week after, which was about, not 1 week, about 3 weeks ago. So as the title of the video is revealed, this is the video showing the haul of Transformers action figures I got for my birthday last month in July, and I wanted to share with you guys I had a very successful birthday celebration last month in July for the current year at the time of this video's recording, which is the year 2026. I didn't get every single Transformers action figure I wanted to get, but I got some of the ones that I was looking for, and some others I decided to get after I was originally going to pass on them, because I figured, why not add them to my Transformers collection? What would be the harm? So, for my birthday, every year my family and I, we go out of town and we go shopping at Walmart, since we don't have a Walmart store here in my hometown where I live. And so, for my birthday this year, we didn't just go to Walmart, we went to 2 Walmart stores, and we also went to 2 Target stores, and some other Transformers action figures I ordered online off of Walmart and Target's websites, and also off of Amazon. So between essentially 5 resources, 2 brick and mortar stores, and 3 websites, here is the Transformers action figures that I was able to get for my birthday this year. So starting off with the ones I found in store, at Walmart I found the Transformers Studio Series TF1 Deluxe Class Thundercracker. He was one of the Deluxe Class Transformers figures that was at the top of my list. Thundercracker ended up being the only, between the 2 Walmart stores I went to, Thundercracker was the only Transformers action figure at both stores that I purchased. Most of the figures they had on the shelves were the most recent wave of Transformers Age of the Primes, which actually became available for purchase on the internet about 2 months ago. In June is when that wave of Transformers action figures was released, and so yeah, most of the Transformers action figures on the shelves at the Walmarts where I live right now are cluttered with Age of the Primes, Deluxe, Voyager, and Leader class figures. More so the Deluxe copies of the Deluxe figures than the Voyager and Leader class figures. And at one of the Walmart stores I went to, the only Voyager class figure they have was Age of the Primes Armada Red Alert. They had 7 copies of Armada Red Alert shelf warming. So yeah, Thundercracker, he's still a pretty decent action figure. I'll have to do a side-by-side comparison with him in Starscream to see which parts of him are new and which parts are repainted from Starscream. I think Thundercracker might have a new head sculpt and new wings, but I'm still glad that I was able to find him, and I really, really hope we get a 3rd use of this mold as Transformers 1 Skywarp, because it doesn't make any sense to do just Starscream and Thundercracker without doing Skywarp. And I hope Hasbro learns from the snafu with the disaster that has been Studio Series 86 Starscream being a Target store exclusive, and Target not being able to get as many copies in stock on time for Starscream's original street date, which was the last week of July of 2026, which was the week I went and started to buy all these Transformers and add them to my Transformers collection. Apparently, that Target hasn't publicly announced the reason why. They didn't give a reason on people who pre-ordered Studio Series 86 Starscream and why he was cancelled, but point is that because of the disaster with Starscream, Target having to cancel everyone's pre-orders on Studio Series 86 Starscream, and people now having to wait for him to either appear and back in stock on Target's website, or by some miracle he shows up at a Target store or where you live. I really hope that future action figures of Starscream, Thundercracker, and Skywarp are all released at mass retail and not as exclusives, because the disaster with Studio Series 86 Starscream, it's basically made to try and make a joke about it. Studio Series 86 Starscream is currently the most sought after Transformers action figure, arguably, of 2026 now, and even more so than Swindle, who's the last of the Combaticons, who is slowly starting to appear available on some websites, and even more so than some of the other Studio Series and Age of the Primes Transformers action figures that fans and collectors have been hoping for. So hopefully people who have been buying up and collecting the Studio Series 86 Seekers will be able to get a hold of Starscream like they've been able to do with Thundercracker and Skywarp, since they were both released at mass retail. I was hoping to find the Studio Series 86 Seekers on my birthday trip, but unfortunately not one of the 4 stores that I went to, both Walmarts and both Target stores, did not have any Studio Series 86 Thundercracker or Skywarp figures on the shelves. So yeah, if I am able to get a hold of Starscream, then I'll probably order Thundercracker and Skywarp off the internet. But I was really hoping I would be able to get all 3 of the Studio Series 86 Seekers at the same time, but with how Target has had to cancel Starscream, and earlier today, it's August of 2026, and it was Hasbro announced at the same day I'm recording this video an official apology to Transformers fans and collectors for Studio Series 86 Starscream not being able to be released at Target stores on the planned release date. So hopefully more copies of Starscream will soon show up in the States in the coming weeks, and hopefully, I'm hoping by next month in September, Starscream will start to appear on shelves of Target stores in the same numbers that Thundercracker and Skywarp have been appearing everywhere else. Also, fingers crossed that Studio Series 86 Starscream gets released soon. So, my ranting aside, bringing focus back to the Transformers figures I found, and I had better luck at, even though I didn't find Studio Series 86 Starscream, I did have more luck at Target than Walmart, where I live in Southern California. And at Target, I was able to find one of the Transformers action figures that I decided to add to my collection just to have another Autobot among the ranks, and it is the red version of the Transformers Hot Wheels collaborative crossover figure of Twin Mill. So there are now 2 versions of the Hot Wheels Transformers Twin Mill out there. The blue version, which was the first version released east of Twin Mill, was a mass retail figure, and the red version of Twin Mill is a Target store exclusive here in the United States. So if you want to get a red version of Twin Mill, or Red Mill as I'm thinking of renaming him and adding it to your Transformers collection, then if you don't want to buy the figure online, or you're unable to, then Target is the only store you'll be able to find it at. You won't find this figure being sold at Walmart. But yeah, I'm really glad that I was able to find it, and this was true for a lot of the Transformers action figures I saw, both at Walmart and even more so at Target. There was only 1 copy of all the Transformers action figures that I found out on the shelves. Thundercracker was the only one where I saw at least 3 copies at both Walmart stores, but since Thundercracker's not an army building figure, I only got the 1 copy of him. But yeah, there's the red version of Twin Mill. Next up, the only Studio Series Voyager class figure that I found at Target. I found this at the second Target store that I went to. And I was really glad they had it, because this was one of the figures at the top of my birthday list of Transformers figures to find. And it is the Studio Series 86 Voyager class Shockwave. So yeah, I am really thrilled that I was able to find Studio Series 86 Shockwave. A lot of fans and collectors have been disappointed that Shockwave is not an entirely brand new mold. All of the other Decepticons who've been released in 2026, who have been released under the Studio Series 86 line, they've been entirely brand new molds. We got new Leader class figures for Megatron and Soundwave, and then we got new Voyager class figures of the Seeker, Starscream, Thundercracker, and Skywarp. But for Shockwave, he unfortunately is not an entirely brand new mold. He's a retool of the Transformers War for Cybertron Siege Leader class Shockwave figure that was released back in 2019. And one of the make it or break it deals with Studio Series 86 Shockwave is, with all of Hasbro's price hikes over the last few years, Shockwave Voyager class Transformers are retailing for around $45, and that's the price that Leader class Transformers were going for in 2019 when the original Siege version of Shockwave, of this Shockwave mold, was released. And so Studio Series 86 Shockwave, even though he's a size class figure smaller than the Siege version of him, he is retailing for the exact same price that the Siege version of Shockwave retailed for back in 2019. And I remember Siege Shockwave shelf warming back in 2019 because a lot of fans and collectors didn't like the extra weapons that the Siege version of Shockwave came with, and a lot of fans and collectors were kind of hoping that maybe a larger sized Leader class Shockwave figure would be released. For the original 1984 lineup of Decepticons, Shockwave's Generation 1 action figure was the physically tallest of the original cast of Decepticon Transformers characters, and one of the reasons why is because Shockwave's original Transformers Generation 1 action figure was not created by Takara Tomy for the Diaclone robots or even the micro-change lines of transforming robot action figures. Shockwave's Generation 1 action figure was designed by a toy company in South Korea named Toyco, and that's why there was a lot of difficulty marketing Shockwave as a character in Japan, because Takara Tomy didn't own the rights to his action figure. It was owned by a South Korean toy company named Toyco. So yeah, Shockwave is he is the make it or break it deal with Studio Series 86 Shockwave is that his retooled parts allow him to interact with the Age of the Primes version of Bruticus, where he can detach to one of Bruticus's shoulders and become a shoulder cannon. And it's based off an episode of the Transformers Generation 1 cartoon where, after Shockwave transforms into his alternate mode of a space cannon, Bruticus grabs Shockwave while he transforms into his alternate mode, and he wields Shockwave around like a blaster the same way the other Decepticons wielded Megatron as a handheld weapon. And a lot of Transformers fans and collectors don't realize this, but unlike Megatron, when Shockwave would transform into his alt mode of a Cybertronian cannon, unlike Megatron, Shockwave does not minimize the size of his body. He does not undergo mass shifting. Shockwave, in his alternate mode of a cannon, he remains the same size that he does in robot mode. The exact same cannon, same as the exact same cannon Decepticon of Galvatron. It's the same situation with Shockwave. He does not undergo mass shifting. I've seen quite a few Transformers fans and collectors incorrectly believe that Shockwave, because his Transformers Generation 1 action figure had a handle that allowed it to be held just like Generation 1 Megatron, a lot of Transformers fans and collectors incorrectly think that Shockwave undergoes mass shifting when he transforms into his alt mode. He does not. Shockwave remains the same size. That's why Megatron transforms into a pistol, but Shockwave transforms into an entire cannon, just like Generation 1 Galvatron. And so, yeah, since Bruticus held Shockwave, that was the thing with Bruticus, is that he is one of the tallest of the Decepticon combiners. I think they tried to joke that, well, not joke about it, but I think Sunbow Productions, by having that one scene in that one episode of Transformers Generation 1 where Bruticus actually held on to Shockwave and used him as a laser gun, the idea was that Bruticus was one of the physically largest of the Decepticon combiners, and compared to the other Decepticon combiners, I think Bruticus might be the second physically largest of all the Decepticon combiners, the physically largest of them all being Predaking. But yeah, that's just some trivia behind Shockwave and why a lot of fans and collectors appreciate having a new Shockwave action figure. A lot of fans and collectors, myself included, were kind of hoping that Shockwave would be another leader class figure like we got with Soundwave and Megatron, since that would be a more appropriate size class figure for him. And when you find, and there's plenty of photos out there, if you look at a photo of Transformers Generation 1 Shockwave standing beside Generation 1 Megatron, Soundwave, and the other 1984 Decepticons, Shockwave towers over them all. And so, for the Studio Series 86 versions of Megatron, Soundwave, and the Seekers, being a retool of Siege Shockwave, his Studio Series 86 figure is now the shortest of all the Decepticons, and so for Shockwave's height to be reversed and go from being the tallest of the Decepticons to now being the shortest, yeah, it's a pill that a lot of fans and collectors have found it difficult to swallow, and I admit that I am one of those Transformers fans who have been unable to swallow the reality that for the Studio Series 86 line, Shockwave now has one of these physically shortest robot modes compared to his fellow 1984 Decepticons of Megatron, Soundwave, and the Seekers. So I'm really, really hoping that someday we'll get a physically larger sized action figure of Shockwave. Someday. Alright, so moving along from Shockwave, I mentioned a moment ago that he has been designed to interact with the Age of the Primes version of Bruticus, so going off of that, here is I am very pleased that I was able to add to my Transformers collection for my birthday this year, Transformers Age of the Primes Commander Class Onslaught. So yes, the most recent Combiner Torso Bot is Onslaught, who forms the torso and main body of Age of the Primes Bruticus. And a lot of fans and collectors have been particularly excited for Onslaught, much more so than they have been for Motormaster or Silverbolt, or even the 2-pack containing Long Haul and Hook, who formed the torso for Devastator. The main reason why is because the previous action figure of Onslaught that was released by Hasbro was his Combiner Wars action figure, and the Combiner Wars version of Onslaught was a retool of the Protectobot Hotspot, who formed the torso for Defensor, or rather than being an entirely original new mold, and so Onslaught was one of the most, if not the most, lackluster torso bot to be released in the Combiner Wars line, being a retool of Hotspot rather than being an entirely original mold compared to Motormaster and Silverbolt, who were original molds. Same thing with Hotspot. And he didn't look a thing like his Transformers Generation 1 action figure, and so even though a lot of fans and collectors aren't thrilled with the Legacy / Age of the Primes, the new combiners that have the combiner skeleton, where you can essentially get the entire combiner with skeletal arms and legs if you just buy the torso bot and you forego the limb bots to make the arms and legs muscular, or not so skeletal thin. And a lot of fans and collectors prefer the Generation 1 combiners, where the limb bots made the entirety of the arms and legs, which is what Hasbro and Takara Tomy did with the Combiner Wars and the Power of the Primes combiners released during the Prime Wars trilogy from 2015 to 2018. But when comparing the Prime Wars trilogy to the Age of the Primes / Studio Series combiners, Onslaught is definitely the torso bot, where in terms of Generation 1 accuracy, he is far superior than his Combiner Wars action figure in terms of accuracy to his original Transformers Generation 1 version that was introduced in 1985. So yeah, like most Transformers fans and collectors, since I was able to get a hold of Onslaught, and I actually got him off of Amazon. I did find one copy of Onslaught at one of the Target stores I went to, but there was a gaping hole on the back of the box that made it look like the arm that Blastoff was attaching to. Here on the photo, there was a slash mark right there where something punctured the box. So I decided to not cancel my Amazon order, and I got an undamaged version of Onslaught courtesy of Amazon.com. But like most Transformers fans and collectors, because Swindle, who appears on Onslaught's box art right here, right above my finger, there's Swindle, and then Brawl is here, and then Blastoff and Vortex are up here, with Onslaught here having all of the Combaticons and their alt modes on the box art for Onslaught. Since Swindle's the last of the Combaticons to be released most Transformers fans and collectors who have opened up all the Age of the Prime's Combaticons and combined them with Onslaught's release to have Bruticus. Bruticus looks like he has a pegged leg on his right side leg, since Swindle hasn't been released yet, so a lot of fans and collectors are really excited that Swindle, according to Amazon, he has a street date for September 1st, so technically we're just 2 weeks away from Swindle's arrival from Amazon.com. Amazon has been a lot more careful about meeting supplies and demands and having copies of Transformers action figures they get at their facilities arrived to them from the factories overseas. So hopefully the Age of the Primes next wave of those Transformers action figures, hopefully Amazon will get them in stock much better than Target was able to do with Studio Series 86 Starscream and Eamon. So for the final Transformers action figure that I found at the first Target store that I went to, I looked out, and one of the Target stores I visited actually had one of the recently released Transformers More Than Meets the Eye collection figures on the shelves, and they had multiple copies of the Transformers Studio Series 86 More Than Meets the Eye collection versions of the Insecticon 3-pack of Bombshell, Shrapnel, and Kickback. So yeah, I'm really excited to have these guys here. I was going to pass on the Insecticons at first, but then when I looked at the product photos and I realized that one of the this box set release of the Insecticons, these are the third versions of Bombshell, Shrapnel, and Kickback that have been released between Hasbro and Takara Tomy. The first versions were the Legacy versions of them that were released individually at mass retail by Hasbro during the Legacy trilogy from 2022 to 2024, and then I think it was last year in 2025, Takara Tomy released repaints of the Legacy Deluxe Class Insecticons in a box set with a repaint of Earthrise Skywarp. I can't remember if it was the Decepticon Assault box set or what that group of that box set of Transformers action figures is, but both the Legacy and the Takara Tomy releases of the Insecticons, they utilize paint jobs that are based off of the Insecticons' original Transformers Generation 1 action figures, and then the Target exclusive 3-pack of the More Than Meets the Eye Studio Series 86 releases of Bombshell, Shrapnel, and Kickback. They have the paint jobs that the Insecticons had in the Transformers Generation 1 movie, and by extension the Transformers Generation 1 cartoon television show. And one of the selling points for these versions of the Insecticons is that, unlike the Legacy and Takara Tomy releases, the Studio Series 86 versions of the Insecticons, they are made entirely out of solid, opaque plastic. The Legacy versions of Bombshell and Shrapnel, their robot mode chests were cast in clear plastic, which was a callback to the gimmick that the Insecticons had when they were originally a part of Takara Tomy's Diaclone Robots line. The robot mode chests would open up and would reveal a cockpit that human pilots could sit inside of, because originally when they were released in the Diaclone owned Robots line, Takara Tomy had imagined the Diaclone robots being human-made machines that would transform and basically become mech suits that human pilots would pilot around, and that they were basically robots built here on Earth. And so when Hasbro turned the Diaclone robots into the Transformers and made them sentient aliens that came from another planet in outer space, Cybertron. None of the figures were retooled, and so all of the Transformers characters who were originally from Takara Tomi's Diaclone Robots line still had the cockpits for human pilots to sit in, and for the Insecticons, the pilot seats were in the insides of their robot mode chests, which is why all of their chests are yellow here on the Studio Series 86 figures, and why on the original Generation 1 action figures they were yellowish green, to show that they were doors that would open up for human pilots to sit inside of. And on the Legacy figures, just like the Generation 1 versions of them, all of their robot mode chests were made out of clear plastic on the Legacy releases of the Insecticons. And then for Kickback, he had extra clear parts in that his insect mode wings were done out of clear plastic, and that was a callback to the fact that basically the parts on Bombshell, Shrapnel, and Kickback that are cast in white plastic here on the Studio Series 86 releases of them. Bombshells, the armor piece that's sitting above his robot mode head, which is his rhinoceros beetle horn, and then Shrapnel's mandibles from his insect mode of a stag beetle, and then Kickback's grasshopper wings. On the original Generation 1 action figures of the Insecticons, these parts were made out of silver chrome. And I believe most re-releases of their Generation 1 action figures have still had chromed parts given to them as well. And so for the Legacy releases and most modern action figures of the Insecticons, parts of them that were made out of originally silvery chrome, they're now done out of silvery gray plastic, since gray plastic lasts much longer than chrome paint does. But in the Transformers Generation 1 cartoon series, Transformers characters whose action figures had silvery chrome parts, Sunbow Productions decided to make those parts of the Transformers white in the cartoon show to show how reflective silvery chrome is when you shine a light off of it. So it's really nice to have see solid white plastic here on the Studio Series 86 versions of the Insecticons. And as I said, on the Legacy unlike the Legacy figures, which had parts done in clear plastic, the Studio Series 86 Insecticons are made entirely out of solid opaque plastic. And so of the 3 versions of the deluxe class Insecticons that we've gotten over the last 4 years since Kickback was released in the Legacy Year 1 line back in 2022, these latest versions, the Studio Series 86 More Than Meets the Eye collection versions of Bombshell, Shrapnel, and Kickback, they're the ones that are most likely going to have the greatest longevity, since all of their parts are made out of solid plastic. So yeah, that's one of the main incentives for getting the Studio Series 86 versions of the Insecticons is the fact that they're made entirely out of solid plastic. That's also been, for many Transformers fans and collectors, the incentive for getting the More Than Meets the Eye Studio Series 86 repaint of Earthrise Prowl, which is being released individually at some point. And a lot of fans and collectors are hoping that a lot of the figures that were released during the War for Cybertron trilogy sublines of Transformers Generations, Siege, Earthrise, Kingdom, and then the Legacy trilogy and the Studio Series 86 Transformers, a lot of fans and collectors are hoping that Transformers action figures, which so far during the current decade of the 2020s, where the original versions of the figures had clear plastic parts, a lot of Transformers fans and collectors are hoping that clear plastic will be a thing of the past, and that moving forward Hasbro will do Transformers action figures entirely out of solid opaque plastic. Since solid plastic is far less brittle and has greater longevity than clear plastic does. So yeah, I'm really thrilled that I was able to find the Insecticon 3 packs, so I'm really looking forward to getting these guys here. Now, the Insecticons, they had the ability of making clones of themselves, Elves in the Transformers Generation 1 cartoon. So, if you have the legacy versions of the Insecticons, you could potentially get multiple versions of the Studio Series 86 Insecticons and Army build on this 3-pack. But again, with the current price tag of Deluxe Class Transformers being between $27 to $28, and this 3-pack is retailing for, I want to say, about $90 right now at Target stores, because it's not just Bombshell, Shrapnel, and Kickback and the same weapons that their legacy action figures had. And the reason for the $90 retail price tag is because you also get 6 pink Decepticon Energon cubes here, which the Energon cubes are even pictured on the back of the box. So that's the reason why instead of retailing for $85, it's retailing for $90. Others is that you get Energon cubes to show that the Insecticons love to devour Energon more than anything else. But yeah, really happy that I was able to get that 3-pack. E-pack. A lot of fans and collectors aren't as excited for the Insecticons as they are for More Than Meets the Eye collection releases of Prowl and Starscream, since they're individual releases and they have a cheaper price tag. But considering the fact that again, as I said, the legacy releases of Bombshell, Shrapnel, and Kickback, all 3 of them have parts made out of clear plastic. Having entirely solid plastic versions of them, that was enough incentive for me to add these guys to my Transformers collection. And I babbled on long enough, longer than I wanted to. I was hoping I would be able to keep the video with less than half an hour, but when I start talking about Transformers, there's no stopping me, because I love to talk everything there is about Transformers action figures. Now, the next 2 Transformers action figures, one of them I got off of Target's website. The other one I actually bought at a Target store, because after I found the other figures I found at Target, the Insecticons, Studio Series 86 Shockwave, and the red version of Hot Wheels Twin Mill, I looked around at the other Transformers action figures that Target had on the shelf, and most of them I already had in my Transformers collection. Actions such as Studio Series, TF1, Orion Pax, Legacy. One of the Target stores I went to did have Liege Maximo, 1 copy of him, along with 4 copies of Big Convoy. But I already got Liege Maximo off of Amazon, so I didn't buy him. Probably should have bought a second copy just to keep in the box, considering how many Transformers fans and collectors are going around buying up and collecting Liege Maximo. But instead of Liege Maximo, there was another Leader class figure on the shelf that I did not have in my Transformers collection, and this figure actually came out a couple of months ago. I want to say around late May, early June is when this figure was first released. I could be wrong. It's been a while since I looked back at when this figure was released. I was originally going to pass on this figure entirely, but after seeing so many copies of it shelf warming at the Target stores where I live here in Southern California, I finally decided to cave in, and I added to my Transformers collection the Transformers Studio Series 86 More Than Meets the Eye battle-damaged version of Optimus Prime. So this is based on Optimus Prime's appearance in the Transformers Generation 1 movie when he's having his duel to the death with Megatron and he's been severely injured with all the fighting that's gone on between him and Megatron. And this version of Optimus Prime, he was supposed to have a companion battle-damaged Megatron figure released at the exact same time that he was, but a lot of fans and collectors have been so enraged about Studio Series 86 Starscream being delayed from release and Target canceling pre-orders that a lot of fans and collectors have already forgotten that technically Starscream is not the first action figure from the Target exclusive More Than Meets the Eye Studio Series collection. to be delayed upon release at and actually being delayed appearing on the shelves of retail stores. The first Transformers action figure in the More Than Meets the Eye collection line to be delayed from release at Target stores is actually this action figure. So, after I found Optimus Prime on the shelf of physically found him on the shelf of Target, I went onto Target's website and I got the companion Studio Series 86 More Than Meets the Eye collection battle damaged version of Studio Series 86 Megatron. And the reason why I say Optimus Prime and Megatron are companion figures is because between the two of them, on their boxes, they have printed on the display window the most famous line from the Transformers Generation 1 film when Megatron and Optimus Prime exchange dialogue before they start fighting. One shall stand, and is on Optimus Prime's box, and the other half of the phrase, one shall fall, is on Megatron's box. So, yeah, this is that was arguably the most iconic line from the Transformers Generation 1 film, is when Optimus Prime tells Megatron, one shall stand, one shall fall. And a lot of Transformers fans who went to see the Transformers Generation 1 movie expected that Megatron was going to be the one who was going to fall in the final duel to the death between the two Transformers leaders. But to the heartbreak of everyone, Optimus Prime ended up being the character who died, and Megatron was the leader who not only survived, but he upgraded and became Galvatron by the time the movie ended. And so Hasbro learned the hard way in 1986 with the release of the Generation 1 movie that Optimus Prime was not just a robot action figure that transformed into a semi-truck. He was a beloved fictional character that had brought so much love and enjoyment to an entire generation of people that to see him dying on screen and knowing that he was dead, it broke so many people's hearts that Hasbro realized too late that it was a mistake to actually kill Optimus Prime in the Transformers Generation 1 film. So, yeah, that's one of Optimus Prime's greatest legacies, is that the first time he died, fans were so brokenhearted, Hasbro decided to bring Optimus Prime back to life during an episode of the third season of the Transformers Generation 1 cartoon, in which Optimus Prime was a zombie being controlled by the Quintessons, and then he died again. And after audiences saw that episode and wanted Optimus Prime to come back to life for good, he did at the end of the third season of the Transformers Generation 1 cartoon and was alive during Season 4. But unfortunately, Hasbro brought Optimus Prime back to life too late for the Transformers Generation 1 franchise to continue to be as popular in 1986 and 1987 as it had been in 1984 and 1985. So, today, Optimus Prime dying, it's now a temporary thing because the fans in 1986, when they found out Optimus Prime was dead permanently and might not ever come back again, it broke that generation of Transformers fans' hearts so much that to this day, today, Optimus Prime, whenever he dies, it's only a temporary thing and he comes back to life eventually at some point in the future. So yeah, the Transformers fans in 1986 spoke, gave the verdict, and yeah, they want Optimus Prime to be around forever. So, unlike Optimus Prime, who's been shelf-warming on the shelves of Target stores, at least where I live in California, he's been shelf-warming. Megatron I have never seen in person at any Target store where I live here in California. Not at my local Target store, nor the ones I went to on my birthday. And on Target's website, Megatron is listed as not being sold in stores and being available only online. Whether or not that's a permanent switch from it, or it's just until Target has Megatron available on their website until enough copies of him can be in stock that he can actually be put out on the shelves of Target stores, or as I honestly don't know what the case is, but yeah, before Starscream is not the first More Than Meets the Eye Target exclusive Transformers action figure from 2026 that Target has had difficulty putting on the shelves of retail stores, as far as I'm aware of. there. But yeah, I'm still thrilled that we got able to finally have both Optimus Prime and Megatron in my Transformers collection. I was going to pass on these figures again at first, but then, like the other Transformers action figures that have been released in the More Than Meets the Eye collection, unlike the first versions of these molds that were released, they're done entirely out of solid opaque plastic, and they have the cartoon accurate paint job. So unlike the Studio Series 86 Commander class version of Optimus Prime, which doesn't have any of the battle damage markings on Optimus Prime's head or torso, including the 5mm port that Hasbro put in his abdomen so you can recreate the scene when Megatron throws a metal shard at Optimus Prime and it pierces his torso. Or so, unlike the Studio Series 86 version, which had clear plastic on the truck mode windows, the windows on the battle damage version of Optimus Prime, ironically, are made out of solid plastic. And visually, the most eye-catching difference between More Than Meets the Eye battle damaged SS-86 Prime and Commander class SS-86 Prime is that his robot mode pelvis and his thighs are made out of gray plastic that, I believe it's gray plastic that's been done over with a layer of white paint. And again, as I said with the Insecticons, parts on the Transformers characters whose action figures had chrome parts. For the G1 cartoon film and the TV series, Sunbow Productions gave Transformers characters who had chrome parts either silvery gray for the paint job or white for the paint job to show how reflective silver chrome is. And another thing that the More Than Meets the Eye version of Optimus Prime has over the Commander class Optimus Prime that came with the trailer is that in early releases of the Studio Series 86 Commander class Optimus Prime, that version of Optimus Prime, his robot mode feet were attached to the base of his legs on the incorrect X sides at the factory, and so the early releases of Studio Series 86 Optimus Prime, I can't remember if it's the toes or the heel spurs, but basically his feet are on the incorrect leg, and so when you transform him into robot mode, his feet are facing upside down. And so there's videos on YouTube that came out back in 2024 where fans and collectors who collected that version of Optimus Prime did a video showing how to fix Optimus Prime's feet. But for the More Than Meets the Eye battle damage version of Optimus Prime, his feet have been applied on the correct legs at the factory, so you don't have to modify or fix the feet of this version of Optimus Prime. And for Megatron, on the main thing that he has beat out over the non-battle damage version of Studio Series 86 Megatron that was released at mass retail is that the shins of his robot mode, they're done in gray paint instead of the bluish paint that Studio Series 86 Megatron had done on his shins. So if you wanted to swap the if you want to have an almost entirely gray version of Megatron that doesn't have blue legs, all you have to do is swap out the head and chest plate between More Than Meets the Eye Megatron and Studio Series 86 Megatron to have an even grayer version of Megatron on your shelves. And I believe, and I already seen where multiple fans and collectors who did manage to buy and obtain a copy of More Than Meets the Eye Megatron did part swap so that the undamaged version of Megatron could have the gray legs and the battle damaged version could have the blue legs. So it's late at night right now when I'm recording this video. My voice is starting to give out, so to wrap things up, I saved the best for last. For me personally, this is the best for last. So the final Transformers action figure I got for my birthday last month in July, I actually ordered it off of Walmart's website. And this was the Transformers action figures that was at the top of my birthday list this year, so I am thrilled that I was able to get this figure online and add it to my Transformers collection. And it's technically, well, not technically, it is an exclusive Transformers action figure. It's not a mass retail release, but it is technically available in two lines of Transformers action figures. The first being Age of the Primes, but the second one being Transformers Generation Selects. And so the Transformers action figure I personally was the most excited to get for my birthday for the year 2026 is Transformers Age of the Primes Generation Selects Monstructor. So yeah, the what is most likely going to be the final core class sized combiner transformer. It's been released by Hasbro. It's now available for purchase online, and I was able to get a copy of Monstructor and add him to my Transformers collection. So, like all the other Transformers action figures that have been released as part of the Transformers Generation Selects line, which I think for the Age of the Primes action figures that have been released in the Generation Selects line, the words Generation Selects have actually been removed from the box, but all the Age of the Primes Transformers have this same style of packaging to show that they're a part of the Generation Selects line, where you've got box art of the character done in random paint on the front. On the top of the box, you've got the word Transformers written in red letters, and then the faction symbol showing the character you're getting inside the box. And you've got product photos on the other sides of the box. But yeah, I'm really thrilled to add Monstructor to my Transformers collection. Monstructor is the third version of the molds that were first used on the Transformers Legacy Trilogy Core Class Dinobot figures. And when the Core Class Dinobots were released in I believe it was the Legacy Evolution line 3 years ago in 2023, a lot of Transformers fans and collectors were wondering not if, but when the Core Class Dinobots would eventually be repainted into both Dino King and Monstructor, because a lot of Transformers fans and collectors realized that very quickly that Volcanicus was going to be, the Core Class Dinobots were going to be repainted and retooled into both Dino King and Monstructor, because the sixth Dinobot was the Ankylosaurus Dinobot, who transformed into Volcanicus's left side arm. I believe his name is Scorch. It's been a while since I've looked it up, but the sixth member of the Core Class Dinobots, who was not originally a member of the Generation 1 Dinobots, being an Ankylosaurus, that was enough of a hint for Transformers fans and collectors that Legacy Core Class Volcanicus was eventually going to be repainted and retooled into Dino King. We got Dino King as a Hasbro Pulse exclusive in the Transformers Legacy United line the following year in 2024. And so 2 years after Dino King was released, we finally got Monstructor in the Age of the Primes Generation Selects line. And so I normally try to wait until I review Transformers action figures until I go into the background of the Transformers characters, so I'll wait before I start babbling on about Monstructor. But for the sake of actually collecting him and adding him to your Transformers collections, I myself cannot stress enough, if you have not yet gotten Monstructor and added him to your Transformers collection, even if you already have Legacy Core Class Volcanicus and you've got Legacy Core Class Dino King, if you have the first two versions of these Core Class sized combiners, I cannot stress enough that Monstructor is a must-have Transformers combiner to have in your Transformers collection. One thing that I do want to say about Monstructor, he did get a slight popularity boost during the 2010s when he was one of the Decepticon combiners that IDW featured in some of the stories in the Transformers comic books that they published. In those comic books, Monstructor was the same size as the other Decepticon combiners, and at one point Monstructor even got into a fight with Omega Supreme, and they were almost the same height. So for those wondering, why is Monstructor's new modern figure mold mates with the Core Class Dinobots, and he's one of the smallest combiners? That's because in the original Transformers Generation 1 line, Monstructor, his Generation 1 action figure, Generation 1 Monstructor, holds the title of being the physically smallest combiner transformer to be released in the entirety of Transformers Generation 1. even in combined mode, the 6 Decepticons who combined to form Monstructor. In the Generation 1 line, they were known as the Pretender Monsters because they had the same gimmick as the Pretender Transformers, where the main Transformer hid inside a shell of an organic alien creature, and then the main Decepticon body would pop out and reveal that it was actually a robot inside, pretending to be an organic life form. The Pretender Monsters, their Pretender shells were monstrous creatures, and their the combiner that they would all combine into was appropriately given the name Monstructor to show that he's the most monstrous of all the Decepticon combiners. But the Pretender Monsters were such small-sized Transformers action figures. They were, I believe, the same size as the Generation 1 mini-bots, if not smaller. And Monstructor's Transformers Generation 1 action figure, even when fully combined, it stands roughly the same height as Transformers Generation 1 Optimus Prime. So, in terms of size of their Generation 1 action figures, Monstructor standing roughly the same height as the Studio Series 86 Optimus Prime. That is actually very accurate to their Generation 1 action figures. I think, shout out to Patriot Prime Reviews. I believe it was him when he reviewed Generation 1 Monstructor on his channel several years ago. It might have been him, it could have been another collector actor, but someone who several years ago I watched who did a review on the original Transformers Generation 1 version of Monstructor did a size comparison of him with Generation 1 Optimus Prime, and yeah, Monstructor is the same height as Generation 1 Optimus Prime. So for him to be done in the core class size is very size accurate to his original Transformers Generation 1 action figure. But another incentive for Monstructor, one of the main incentives is that two of the Decepticon Pretender Monsters who combined to form Monstructor, their original Transformers Generation 1 action figures, infamously suffer from gold plastic syndrome. The two members of Team Monstructor whose Generation 1 action figures suffered from gold plastic syndrome are Bristleback, who forms Monstructor's left side arm, and down here, Decepticon Slog, who forms the upper half of Monstructor's torso. Slog and Bristleback their original Generation 1 action figures were done out of gold plastic, and Bristleback more so than Slog. Most copies of him are known to be a pile of gold dust these days, and so it is very, very rare to find a fully intact copy of Bristleback that has not succumbed to gold plastic syndrome. It's true for Slog also as well to a point, but Bristleback, for some reason, there are more copies of him succumbing to gold plastic syndrome than there are of Slog, but Slog is not that much better than Bristleback in terms of succumbing to gold plastic syndrome. So most copies of Monstructor that exist, Monstructor is missing his upper torso and his left side arm due to literally having 1/3 of him being made out of gold plastic. So if you want to have a copy of Monstructor that's not succumbed to gold plastic, then finding the versions of Dino King that are mold mates with Slog and Bristleback that form Dino King's upper torso and or head and left side arm. Using those as filler pieces for Monstructor is your best chance at getting a fully intact Generation 1 Monstructor action figure. In recent years, Hasbro and Takara Tomy, instead of using the same type of gold plastic they used on Transformers action figures during the 1980s, the 1990s, and even into the 2000s, the gold plastic that's now used on Transformers action figures that have gold for the main paint job, instead of being the same gold plastic that would succumb to gold plastic syndrome, it's actually now a very it's fake gold in the sense that it's actually a very dark metallic yellow colored plastic, and there's no metal swirling in it either, so it actually looks like a very, very dark, like a mustard yellowy bronze color here. So yeah, a lot of fans and collectors are hoping that with modern Transformers action figures that have gold plastic as the main paint job, with it actually being a fake gold plastic, or fool's gold plastic as I personally like to jokingly call it, that a lot of fans and collectors are hoping that this modern version of Monstructor won't succumb to gold plastic syndrome, unlike his Generation 1 action figure. So this has been the TFfangeek. This has been my belated birthday haul Transformers video. I apologize that I waited 3 weeks to get this video recorded, but again, as I said, with the way things have been, and with the weather and the way things have been going on in my life, with life getting in the way, the weather being much hotter this time of year than it normally would be, and I've been sweating almost every night when I fall asleep. This was the first night I've had since I actually celebrated my birthday that I was able to get this video recorded, but I hope you guys all enjoyed seeing the latest additions to my Transformers collection, and I'm really hoping in the coming weeks, as the month of August moves along and eventually gives way to September, I'm really hoping that the weather will start to get a lot cooler. When the summer season started back in early May, some of the news reports said that this coming winter, enter the winter season from 2026 to 2027, Evan, that it's supposed to be an El Nino year where we get a lot of rain and thunderstorms, and where it's older, and there's freezing temperatures, there could be snow. So we've had somewhat of a drought here in California, so a lot of residents are really hoping that we'll get rain, because with all the fire we've been having, there haven't been any fires near my hometown, but there have been fires throughout the state of California because a lot of the plants are drying up from lack of water. So a lot of California's residents, my family and I also, were all hoping that we get rain out here come winter time. So hopefully that will happen soon. But thank you guys all so much for watching. This has been the TFfangeek. This has been my latest haul of Transformers action figures, which I technically got last month in July for my birthday. And thank you guys all so much again, to all my friends and subscribers, for your continued support. If you haven't done so already, please like, comment, and subscribe. And remember, collecting is a lifelong hobby. As long as you enjoy it for the rest of your life. And until next time, you guys, please remember to stay safe, stay healthy, and until the next video, transform and roll out. Goodbye, everyone.